Okay, so let's bring in Republican Senator from Florida, Marco Rubio. He is in Marianna, Florida. This is one of those cities that was caught right in Hurricane Michael's path. Senator, thank you for joining us tonight. Can you tell us what you saw today?
Well, it's about as bad as it gets, and I was in Bay County on Friday, which is Panama City, and that was really tough. But here in Jackson County, and Marianna is the county seat of Jackson County, you just see tremendous devastation up and down downtown and the main street. And the good news is I just left a few minutes ago. I was in another room where all these firefighters were up from Central Florida who had come over to be helpful and help them out here. But there's a lot of work that lies ahead, and number one thing right now, people need their power back, and that's going to take a little bit. This is not about restoring power. It's actually, in many cases, about rebuilding the entire grid. So there's a lot of work that lies ahead, and a lot that needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, it's been encouraging to see crews from around the country, from around the southeast, really pre-position and get in there as quickly as they can. But it looks from the images that we're seeing, as you said, that there are areas that it will take weeks, months, maybe years for them to get back on their feet the way they were before the storm.
Yeah, again, talking about power for a moment. I mean, this doesn't usually in these storms. You know, some lines are down, you put them back up, you start to get power rolling in. In this particular case, it's a total rebuild of the system. I mean, there's stuff everywhere, and then many of these structures that you can't even turn the power on because it could start a fire and hurt somebody. You got to clear all that out first. So this is a multiple-week event, multiple-month event, and it'll get better every day. It'll get a little better than the day before. But right now, if they could just get power and better communications up and running, I mean, cell phones working and the like, then everything else starts to flow. But there are crews here from all over the country that are helpful. Over 200 people working almost around the clock to get power restored. And then long term, you worry about, for example, the agriculture industry down here, the forestry industry, peanuts, the cotton crop that was wiped out. I mean, these are people that are not going to make any money this year in many cases. And so the economic damages that'll be here long after the power is restored and even some of the structures are rebuilt. There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's encouraging to me, as those are my folks there in the Panhandle. And so watching those communities come together, they're tough. They will assist each other. Neighbors will step in, but we know they have a long, hard path to go. I also want to ask you about our other top story today, Senator, while we have you, about Saudi Arabia, as minute by minute things are changing. But the president today, after a call with the king, said he absolutely denied this. He's now sent Secretary of State Pompeo over there, potentially to Saudi Arabia, Turkey, maybe other places as well, to try to get to the truth. The president made mention of potentially rogue killers. It's language that people think that he may have gotten directly from the Saudi administration. Your Democratic counterpart in the Senate, Chris Murphy, says this: been hearing the ridiculous, quote, rogue killers theory, where the Saudis would go with this. Absolutely extraordinary. They were able to enlist the president of the United States as their PR agent to float it. The president's had some tough talk. I know you have as well. How do we get the final answers on exactly what happened to Jamal Khashoggi?
Well, here's what we know. He walked into that building, and there's no video of him walking out. So either he's still in there somewhere or he's dead. That's really the only explanation for it. If there was video of him leaving the facility, I think common sense tells you the Saudis would have produced it. Who did it, how they did it, I think we have to assume the worst. And we'll see if through this investigation and through insight that they're providing and others will provide, we will know more. Look, the Turks claim they have audio and potentially even video of what happened. Obviously, if that's true, then we'll know about it. But the most important thing to do in these cases is to wait for the truth to come out and wait for the evidence to be presented and wait for the facts to be out there before we make any pronouncements. I mean, we're dealing with foreign governments here, not just individuals. But what I have said, and I'll say again, is if in fact the Saudis lured them in there and then killed them and then disposed of them and have been basically sitting on it for a week, that's going to have an impact on the U.S.-Saudi relationship. And I can just tell you from a congressional perspective, it most certainly is. And it's unfortunate because they're an important part of our Middle Eastern strategy to constrain Iran. But that cannot allow us to overlook something as horrific as this if in fact that's what happened. And I do believe eventually we're going to know one way or the other.
All right, David French tweeting this out. He says, it's remarkable the extent to which the Saudis have engineered a strategic dynamic by which American policymakers across multiple presidencies seem to presume we need them more than they need us. They had hinted this weekend that there would be repercussions against anybody who came to falsely accuse them in this situation as we wait to find out the facts. There had been talk of hiking oil prices and those kinds of things. You know how intertwined we are. I asked the president last week about stopping arms sales. I know it's something that there's been bipartisan suggestion of on the Hill. What can Congress do if it turns out the Saudis are responsible?
Well, the one thing we've already done is we've triggered a global Magnitsky investigation so that there'll be sanctions against the individuals responsible for ordering this and for carrying this out, which is not insignificant if that were to happen, given the fact that people in the Saudi government enjoy access to the U.S. and global markets in order to enjoy their wealth. The arms sales gets a lot of attention. The truth is that that's something that may need to happen as well, limiting them or cutting them off. But ultimately, the Saudis could buy weapons from someone else. The president's right when he says that, but that may very well be another thing that we'll look at. But the deeper dynamic in all this, it isn't for the oil. America produces oil as well now. We're about to be the world's largest producer if we're not already. I think the bigger issue here becomes the role they play in our Middle Eastern strategy. And the administration, and I think wisely, that had built them as a key linchpin against Iran and their ambitions and their expansion in the region. That's endangered now. If they did this, it makes it impossible for us to work with them closely in the short term until something's done about it. And there's just going to, that's just a fact, and there should be, because otherwise, how do we criticize our adversaries around the world for murdering and jailing people if we overlook it when our allies do it? And so, look, it's a mess all the way around. I wish it wouldn't happen for that man, for his family, but also for geopolitical reasons. But it is what it is. We'll have to address it if it happened.
Well, we'll stand by as we wait to get those facts. We know you are as well. And we wish you all the best and the folks of Florida down there as they begin this path to recovery.
Thank you.
Senator, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.